The evacuation alarm had sounded 3 hours ago. The colony on Kepler 186f was under attack. A solar flare of unprecedented magnitude had destabilized the planetary core. Everyone was supposed to evacuate immediately, except for the children's mother. Dr. Sarah Park had stayed behind to secure the research data, to buy time for the others to get to the shuttles. She told her children, 8-year-old Jean and 6-year-old Arya, to go with the evacuation team. She promised she'd follow shortly. She hadn't made it. Now Jean and Arya stood at the checkpoint leading to the landing pad where the final shuttle prepared for launch. Between them and the pad stood Rex, a massive German Shepherd mix, part of the colony's security system. He'd been trained as a guard dog and emergency responder, loyal to the settlement and protective of its boundaries. The checkpoint gate was locked. Standard protocol. No one could re-enter the settlement during evacuation. The door sealed automatically once an evacuation order was issued. "Please," Arya whispered to the dog, tears streaming down her face. "Our mama is still inside. We have to go back." Rex's ears perked up. The dog knew these children. He'd been around them since they were born. He'd played with them, protected them, been part of their lives. But his programming was absolute. Guard the checkpoint. Don't let anyone through. Jean stepped forward, his small hand reaching toward the gate. "Rex, please. We need to get back to the ship. Mama said she'd meet us, but she's still in the facility. We have to help her." The security team at the pad noticed the children approaching. One of them moved toward them, ready to physically carry them to the shuttle if necessary. But Rex shifted his massive body, positioning himself directly in front of the checkpoint gate. It was a stance that meant no one passes. The guard approaching the children hesitated. Rex had never been aggressive toward the humans he knew, but his body language was unambiguous, and no one wanted to risk an altercation with a protective animal during an emergency evacuation. "We can't go through," Jean said to his sister, despair creeping into his voice. "We can't get back to Mama." But then something extraordinary happened. Rex turned to look at the children directly. His eyes, usually focused on external threats, locked onto theirs with an intensity that seemed almost human. Then, without breaking eye contact, the dog began to move. Not away from the gate, but toward the facility entrance. He barked once, sharp, commanding, and started running back into the colony. The security officer understood immediately. The dog knows the layout. He's going to get her. For 11 agonizing minutes, nothing happened. The shuttle's engines hummed, preparing for departure. The security team kept the children in view, ready to load them at a moment's notice. But both Jean and Arya refused to board without their mother. Then they heard it, the sound of the emergency exit seal disengaging. Rex emerged from the facility first, his massive frame somehow supporting Dr. Sarah Park, who was limping badly, blood on her uniform from a falling beam that caught her leg. The dog was essentially carrying her weight, his body positioned to keep her upright. "Go, go, go," the security officer shouted. Rex brought Sarah directly to her children, then stepped aside to let them reach her. As she collapsed to her knees, pulling Jean and Arya into her arms, the dog sat perfectly still, his duty complete. The security team rushed to help Sarah to the shuttle. As they lifted her aboard, she turned back and looked at Rex, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she mouthed. Rex's tail wagged once, a final acknowledgement. As the shuttle lifted off, Jean and Arya watched through the window as Rex stood at the checkpoint, silhouetted against the growing fires consuming the colony. The dog had faced an impossible choice: follow his programming or honor something deeper, the bond with the beings he loved. He had chosen connection over protocol. Weeks later, when the evacuation fleet reached Station Sanctuary, one of the first things Dr. Park did was submit a formal request to have Rex retrieved. The colony had been destroyed, but the evacuation team had deployed remote drones to search for survivors. They found Rex waiting at the checkpoint, exactly where he'd been left. When the dog was brought aboard the station, Jean and Arya were waiting. They threw their arms around his neck, and Rex, a creature whose species wasn't supposed to understand human emotions, seemed to understand perfectly. On the bridge, Admiral Krell watched the reunion and turned to her human liaison officer. "Your species domesticated dogs," she observed. "How did you teach them to love so completely?" "We didn't teach them," the officer said quietly. "Love is what they do. It's simply who they are." The Admiral nodded slowly. In that moment, she understood something fundamental. The greatest strength wasn't found in weapons or technology. It was found in loyalty, in a willingness to break rules for those you loved. And sometimes that strength came from a humble dog who refused to abandon his family.